Many months ago, I decided to make a sewing case to organize my small supplies and to make things more portable, not that I'm going anywhere. At the time, I sketched out a rough picture of what I wanted and also very roughly cut out some fabric. And then I promptly set it aside and ignored it. I don't know if anyone else feels guilty when they see a neglected project sitting there staring at them, but I sure do. So I decided it was time to start working on it. First, I pulled out my picture and my fabric, then I spent far too long trying to figure out what fabric was supposed to go where. The inner and outer fabric were fairly obvious since they were, the biggest pieces, and the outer fabric was the darker color because it would show less dirt. Once I sorted all the pieces out, I folded the inner fabric in half and creased it to mark the center, then opened it back up and squared all of the edges. For some reason, I'd only cut one piece of fabric for the scissor pocket instead of two, so I had to trace out and cut a second piece. For now, I'm setting it aside while I work on the larger pockets. I start by turning the edge of the outer pocket under twice and hand stitching it down with running stitches. Then I do the same for the inner pocket. These are set aside for now. Next, I pinned the pieces for the scissor pocket together and sewed a running stitch most of the way around. Then I turned the pocket right side out and closed the gap with blind stitches. The final pocket was done exactly the same way. Now I'm going to switch to the machine and sew the bottom edge of the two pockets together. This will prevent the items in one pocket from sneaking around into the other pocket. Both edges of the pockets then get basted onto the inner fabric to keep them in place until I sew on the other fabric. The scissor pocket and the final pocket get pinned in place next, and then I'll backstitch the scissor pocket onto the inner fabric. I'm only basting the outer edge of the final pocket because it's the only edge that will be within the seam allowance. The bottom and left edges will be backstitched into place. After that's all stitched down, I measure and mark where the pocket dividers will be. These are sewn with a running stitch. By this time, I've already deviated a good bit from my original picture, so I thought I'd make another change. We happen to have some strong magnets that I thought would come in handy to hold my sewing needles and pins, because losing them in the carpet or cushions is never much fun. Also, I don't recommend dropping a magnet into your pin case to see what happens. That was not a good idea. I measured and cut out a rough shape to form the magnet cover. I did end up trimming a rounded edge before proceeding to sew. The sewing was done in the usual way, and after turning the magnet cover right side out, I slipped it inside and closed the opening with a blind stitch. The whole thing was then sewn onto the inner fabric with a back stitch. And let me tell you, the magnet made sewing a bit difficult because it kept pulling on the needle as I sewed. I pinned the inner and outer fabrics together, right sides together. Then I cut a ribbon to roughly 3 times the width of my case for a closure. I need to point out here that I pinned the ribbon on the wrong way. You'll want to make sure that the length of the ribbon goes down inside between the layers of fabric, or else you'll have the ribbon end up inside of the case when you turn it right side out. Not that I would have done that or anything. Then 3 of the edges get sewn closed, leaving one short edge open to turn it right side out. Trim the seam allowance back. And after turning it right side out, pin the open edges under about where you want them to be. Measure the case to see what size you need to cut your cardboard down to. I cut out 2 pieces of cardboard for the front and back covers. This was just a flap of corrugated cardboard from a box we had received. And this angle makes it look like I'm gonna cut off my thumb, but I swear no digits were severed in the making of this video. The cardboard is then inserted and I'm fairly happy with it, but it would clearly be much better with a spine. I measured the area and cut a little strip of cardboard to add. Much better. I blind stitched the opening closed and then sewed 2 tacks on either side of the spine to keep it from getting too cozy with its neighbors. And here it is, my hardcover sewing supply book. It holds all the things I need for sewing and still has some room left over. I don't like how the needle packaging tends to slip out of the pocket, but I do plan on making a separate needle book someday, and that should stay inside the case better. The magnet is an absolute delight. Not only does it keep my little scissors from falling out, but I can simply drop whatever needle or pin I'm using on it and don't have to worry about it getting lost and someone stepping on it later. That's not fun either.